Derinkuyu. In the morning of 1963, Mustafa was renovating his home in Nevşehir province, Turkey. That is until Mustafa knocked down a wall in his home and discovered a completely new room behind it. This room was connected to a city that could house nearly 20,000 people. This city became known as Derinkuyu, and it was one of the most fascinating places in the ancient world. The identity of those who created and resided in Derinkuyu is still unknown. According to one theory, the city began about 800 BCE, when the Hittites from the Old Kingdom period built and occupied Derinkuyu for an estimated 100 years. After the Hittites were defeated in 700 BCE, historians concluded that the Phrygians inhabited Derinkuyu. Derinkuyu is a safe haven for those who lived above ground in modern-day Turkey's Cappadocia. The entire territory of Cappadocia above Derinkuyu was constantly targeted. Because they were under constant siege, this spawned another theory that most of the 20,000 people living within Derinkuyu were refugees from the conflict between the Arab tribes and Byzantine Christians who were at war overhead around 650 BCE. Derinkuyu was outfitted with facilities made with technology far beyond their time. These amenities included cattle shelters, ventilation chimneys, churches, and schools. Derinkuyu's design baffled archaeologists. Derinkuyu was built with technology that appears to be from a later historical period. The towns were carved from volcanic rock discovered underground. Because protection was their first priority, numerous mechanizations were implemented to secure their safety. Rolling stone doors were used to close several tunnels as part of this mechanization. In the event of an attack, the rolling stone doors would block all openings, trapping assailants inside the tunnel. What seemed to be ventilation vents on the tunnel roofs were actually holes to pour oil on any intruders. Derinkuyu was a thriving metropolis for around 400 years. Another question historians have concerning Derinkuyu is what happened to its residents. Once Derinkuyu was discovered, researchers quickly determined that it was linked to numerous additional underground cities nearby, including Gorim and Kaymaklı. Historians have concluded that Derinkuyu was under attack and inhabitants fled to one of the adjacent cities. However, this remains uncertain. The majority of Derinkuyu's history may never be known, but this mysterious city remains an important element of ancient Turkey. Derinkuyu has prompted modern engineers to investigate the potential of developing underground cities as the population and need for living space grows. Today, Derinkuyu is a popular tourist destination for visitors from all over the world. The underground city of Nushabad. Nushabad, also known as Uyi, is one of the world's most magical underground cities. This city's history stretches back to around 1500 years ago in Iran, during the Sassanid era. Nushabad, meaning city of cold, tasty water, was named after a Sassanid ruler who passed through the area. He stopped to sip water from a well, and the water was crystal clear and cold. As a result, he ordered the construction of a city there, which he named Anushabad, before changing it to Nushabad. During Anushirvan's reign, this city served as one of the Sassanid capitals. Flooding and time have ruined many of the city's details. Archaeologists discovered pottery dating back 1800 years, still in use during the Safavid 16th century and the Qajar 19th century. It is reported that this underground city was used to provide security among the Arab and Mongol invasions of Iran. Today, we know that the underground city of Uyi is a convoluted network of tunnels, chambers, air ducts, staircases, small rooms, wells, canals, and booby traps arranged over 3 stories. The depth of the city of Uyi is thought to be between 3 and 18 meters, 10 to 60 feet. This mysterious metropolis complex was constructed and spread throughout the city of Nushabad. According to residents, it covers an area of around 4 kilometers outside the city's medieval fence. There are indications of sharp edges on the city's walls. Archaeologists assume that the excavation equipment must have been made of diamond-like material. The city's goal was twofold. First, it provided a haven for people to escape the desert's summer heat. Second, it permitted the city's people to move from one area to another without encountering possible attackers. The floors served distinct purposes. The first floor was actually paved with dead-end pathways to deceive possible intruders during times of danger. The second and third floors provided shelter and food storage. These elements assisted the citizens of the city during an enemy attack. Numerous entrances to the underground city have been identified. However, many of them have been shut down over time due to flooding. The romantic and charming city of Uyi has only one entrance. Noshabad's underground city entrance is a small hallway the size of a single person. You can enter by climbing down 45 steps. There you will find a vast water reserve building and numerous passages in the earth that will allow you to reach the city's main areas. These short passages, less than the height of a standing man, will transport you to the city's innermost areas. You can smell the damp dirt as soon as you walk in. Regardless of the entrances, the height of the walls ranges from 170 to 180 centimeters. It was a regular height for the folks at the time. On the surface of the walls, with short distances, there are locations for burning candles for lighting. In certain areas, short platforms have been built for sitting, while in others, it has been transformed into a shelf for storing goods. The vertical wells serve as floor communication conduits, while the U-shaped wells provide air conditionings. The air conditioning system measures the air and ground pressure difference. This ingenious device facilitates air circulation for breathing. The architecture of the underground city was much ahead of its time. Hypogeum of Halsafliini. The Hypogeum of Halsafliini is a 5,000-year-old prehistoric marvel carved into limestone on the island of Malta. The Hypogeum is a unique underground maze that predates the Egyptian pyramids. This labyrinth of interlocking rooms, echoing halls, and exquisite engravings was discovered by chance in 1902 and has attracted archaeologists and paranormal researchers alike. The Hypogeum, built between 4000 and 2500 BC, is the sole known underground temple from the Sahni period of Maltese prehistory. This complex is a multi-level structure that extends around 11 meters below the Earth's surface. It is thought to have been utilized as a sanctuary and a burial ground, with the bones of nearly 7,000 people unearthed during the first excavations. The Hypogeum has 3 levels: upper, middle, and lower. The upper level, the earliest section of the complex, comprises natural caverns that were later artificially expanded. The middle level dates back to the temple phase between 3600 and 3000 BC and has beautiful carved bays that resemble megalithic temples found above ground in Malta. The lower level is the most mysterious, as it houses the Holy of Holies, an exquisitely carved chamber as well as the main room. The main area has a distinctive feature: an oracle hole. When spoken into, this little spherical aperture significantly amplifies sound, implying that it was utilized for ritualistic purposes. The Hypogeum's walls and ceilings are totally hand-carved with antlers and stone tools, and they resemble the trilithon entrances and spiraling motifs found in above-ground temples. This elaborate building demonstrates a remarkable understanding of acoustics, since particular chambers channel sound in ways that still perplex experts today. The underground city of Naur. The underground city of Naur, located deep beneath the French countryside, goes back to the 3rd century AD. Originally, these caves were used as quarries for chalk production. As regional tensions worsened, notably throughout the Middle Ages, the villagers turned these quarries into a hidden shelter. The labyrinth grew into a gigantic complex of more than 3 kilometers, with approximately 300 chambers, 28 galleries, and corridors that could accommodate over 3,000 people. Empty portions of the city provided locals with a convenient location to store things and hide from invaders and wandering armies seeking commodities to plunder. It included livestock areas, 3 churches, and a bakery with ovens, among other features. The chimneys of these ovens and any other underground fires were carefully routed through existing surface structures to mask the presence of daily life 22 meters beneath. Throughout history, these hidden corridors have served several purposes. Evidence implies that Viking invaders sought safety within these fortifications in the 9th and 10th centuries. However, the underground city's peak population occurred during the terrible 30 Years' War in the 17th century. As Europe descended into turmoil, people sought refuge in Naur, transforming it into a fortress of hope. As Western Europe stabilized, the need for these underground sanctuaries decreased. The legacy of Naur's secret city faded until it was rediscovered in 1887, rekindling curiosity in its intriguing past and sparking ideas for its reuse. Throughout the 20th century, Naur's underground network continued to function as an essential strategic shelter. During World War I, it became a unique tourist destination for soldiers, with many of their inscriptions on the walls remaining visible today. During World War II, it briefly served as the invading Nazi army's headquarters. Despite much research and excavation, the underground city of Naur remains mysterious. Legends tell of unexplored chambers and hidden treasures, which feed the imagination of local folklore. The exact extent of the tunnels is unclear, owing to collapses throughout time, and some speculate that undiscovered routes may connect to other subterranean networks in the vicinity. Edinburgh Vaults. Southbridge's 19 arches comprise a set of chambers known as the Edinburgh Vaults. It was built when Duncan I became Scotland's first monarch. Edinburgh spans 7 significant hills, only 2 of which are visible from the current city centre: Castle Hill, which houses Edinburgh Castle, and Carlton Hill. Edinburgh Castle's location made it highly defendable against attack, therefore the locals naturally desired to reside as close as possible. As Edinburgh expanded, massive bridges were built to connect the castle with level sections of land over the ravines to the north and south. The city's South Bridge was a massive, but essentially faulty attempt to traverse the Cowgate Ravine and connect Old Town Edinburgh to the city's newest area. Construction began in 1785, and the most recent of Edinburgh's bridges comprised of 19 stone arches spanning a chasm little over 1,000 feet wide. It stood 31 feet above ground at its tallest point, with foundations that reached as deep as 22 feet into Edinburgh's bedrock. By the 19th century, business in Edinburgh was thriving. Cobblers, butchers, and wine merchants set up shop on the South Bridge's surface, intending to benefit from increased traffic. The street had workshops 1 level below, and the dwelling quarters were located below that. In total, around 120 rooms were erected in the bridge's arches. Physicality mirrored economical position. The lower you lived, the lesser your status in life. The deadly weakness in Edinburgh's South Bridge quickly jeopardized lives and livelihoods. Rain poured through fractures in the poorly constructed viaduct, transporting the city's blood, water, waste, and disease to the lowest levels, where Edinburgh's impoverished struggled to survive. During the Irish potato famine of 1845 to 1847, many Irish people fled to Scotland in pursuit of survival. As many as 10 individuals were forced into the catacombs beneath the bridge, living in a single room. The conditions were worse than those of the tenants, packed, wet, and without air circulation. The neighborhood quickly became known as Edinburgh's Red Light District. Gambling, prostitution, and a thriving black market were common in the vaults. As disease and criminality spread, murder, rape, and death were common. By the late 19th century, the vaults had been permanently walled off to push the unsavory activity out from beneath Edinburgh's main thoroughfares. These vaults sat vacant for decades, with their troubled history faded into obscurity. Obscurity ceased in 1988, when a local guy climbed through a short hallway in one of his buildings to rediscover the rooms beneath the bridge. Since then, the enormous vaults of South Bridge have been opened to the public, prompting several stories of spirits spirits. Witnesses reported feeling cold gusts of air, hearing voices, and seeing and sensing an ethereal presence. Some ghosts are more outgoing, such as the ethereal youngster Jack, who grabs visitors' hands in the wine vault. Another more threatening figure is known as Mr. Boots, an untidy man named after his large boots. Mr. Boots lurks in the vault's back part, pushing and throwing rocks at visitors. Some claim to have heard his footsteps on the cobblestones, and his curse-filled voice reverberating through the chambers. It's even said that in the 1820s, the notorious serial killers William Burke and William Hare lurked below the vault, murdering some of their 17 victims. With hundreds of other dead from disease and criminality, the vaults beneath South Bridge remain one of the world's most haunted locations. One chamber, known as the Oracle Room, is particularly fascinating. Its carefully adjusted acoustics allow a whisper from this room to be heard throughout the complex, prompting supposition that it was used for ritualistic chanting or to converse with the gods. Among the unusual archaeological discoveries are the Sleeping Lady, a clay figurine representing either a fertility goddess or a symbol of death, and a collection of elongated skulls. While some suggest that these are the product of binding customs, others speculate on the potential of contact with alien entities or a genetically distinct population. Adding to the Hypogeum's strange background is a scary bit of folklore from 1940, when a group of school children and their teacher are reported to have vanished while on a tour of the building. Despite extensive investigations, no evidence was discovered, prompting mystical speculations and stories about underground passages going to the underworld. Today, the Hypogeum suffers from environmental and human issues. Preservation efforts have limited the number of visitors, making it one of the world's most exclusive archaeological sites. Are you prepared to uncover more secrets of the past? Subscribe now and embark on a journey to unearth ancient mysteries that are both puzzling and inspirational. Leave a comment if there are any old secrets you'd like us to investigate in future videos.